Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Tuesday. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Appreciate you hanging out with us on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Got Jacob Beck and Paul O'Neill back there on the ones and twos. Fired up. You are here. Lock us in for the next 2 hours. I said this at the top of the show yesterday, and it kind of still holds true. Like, there's just more on the plate than we can get to in 2 hours. Like, I'm going to talk about Tyler Shook for 15 minutes today. The Saints probably drafted the future of their franchise, and I didn't even get to that yesterday because there's so much stuff going on when you compound the fact that I was out all week last week for vacation. So there's tons to do, and we're going to try to get to as much of it as we possibly can. Sharief, Ishaq with us in the next segment. A little bit early on a Tuesday, we're going to talk to Sharief about the Saints draft, what he thinks about that. Glen West in his normal spot at 1:30 talking Tigers. LSU got a top 100 commit in the defensive backfield. We'll certainly get to it. I mentioned I'm going to talk about Tyler Shook a little bit later. I want to talk about where the LSU guys landed in the NFL draft. I didn't get to that yesterday. And then I've got an interesting thought, at least to me, we'll see if you think it's interesting or not, on LSU's postseason resume as it relates to 3 specific baseball games. And we'll get to that in hour number 2 as well. We'll start today the same way we start every day. That's our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's opening drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
It'll be the Tigers and the Lions tonight from Alex Box Stadium. 2 more midweek games to go on the schedule. Tonight, Southeastern. Next week, Grambling. Then the final week of the regular season when the SEC moves things up to Thursday. Everybody plays Thursday, Friday, Saturday in the final weekend. No midweek games. So just 2 more to go. And LSU had won 12 midweek games in a row until last week when they got run-ruled against Northwestern State. I'm aware that Jared Jones made 2 errors in that game. I'm aware that LSU got run-ruled. I'm aware there was a delay. I didn't see much else. I was at the beach. We were chasing 4 kids around, and I just know it didn't go very well. But in any event, that was hopefully the one midweek hiccup. You very, very rarely get through the entirety of a season without that midweek hiccup. Pulmonary had 2 teams that went through perfectly. But it doesn't happen very often, and hopefully, LSU can put that in the rearview mirror and play some good baseball tonight. Southeastern is playing good baseball right now. They are 33-11 overall, which is a wonderful overall record. They're 18-6 in the Southland. That leads the Southland Conference. They won 2 out of 3 against Houston Christian. And I mentioned this in my preview of the series, of the game on LouisianaSports.net. The Southland winner often comes to the box. We've seen Southeastern here for a couple of regionals, and it's not uncommon for that to happen. LSU actually coincidentally played Northwestern State up in the Eugene regional a few years ago. That doesn't have anything to do with playing at the box, but you can see this from time to time, and these are teams that LSU could theoretically see again should they win the Southland and LSU do enough to host a regional. So you look at this as a quality opponent tonight, but one that, as is always the case on Tuesdays, you should be able to overwhelm. So I'm going to talk about this in 2 different little pieces here. One about what you're looking at for LSU, and then one about what Southeastern brings to the table. As far as LSU goes, one thing that's cool tonight is if Jared Jones hits a home run, and he does that a lot on Tuesdays, if you hadn't noticed, he will pass Blake Dean on the all-time list. That is no small feat. Blake Dean was a fabulous hitter at LSU and is number 4 all-time in home runs. They're currently tied. If Jared Jones hits 2 home runs tonight, he will tie Dylan Cruz all-time. I don't need to tell you about Dylan Cruz. That's rarefied air that you're looking at here with Jared Jones. Now, that is if he passes Cruz, he's got to hit 3 home runs to pass Dylan Cruz before the end of the season. He'll get to 3rd on the all-time home run list, and he's not going to catch numbers 1 and 2. Those were 4-year stars in the Gorilla Ball era. That's Brad Cressy, and then at the top of the list, Eddie Furness. He can't get there. But passing Blake Dean and Dylan Cruz on that list is a big deal. And Jared Jones is staring that down. I know that folks want to see more from Jared Jones as far as the power goes on the weekend. I will tell you, his last 2 home runs have been on the weekend. He hit the big one, obviously, on early on Saturday morning. Yeah, Saturday morning against Tennessee as a walk-off. And then he had a home run in the series against Alabama as well. So big night potentially for Jared Jones, and you hope to keep his hot bat going a little bit. The other guy in the lineup that I'm looking at is Stephen Milam. I've talked about him a little bit. He needs to keep it going. Well, he needs to wake up a little bit. He hit a home run on Saturday, smoked a ball into the right field seats. He doubled down the left field line on Saturday as well, but those are his only 2 hits in his last 23 at-bats. Right now, he's hitting 195 in league play. A weird statistical oddity with Stephen Milam is, though he's only hitting 195 in SEC games, he's leading the team with 5 SEC home runs. But last year as a true freshman, coming from Las Cruces, New Mexico, off of an admittedly awful fall, he hit 265 against league pitching. And before you go, well, that's terrible, I promise you, I think you would be surprised. I'm speaking for you, the listener here, and maybe you know better than I'm giving you credit for, but SEC only numbers over those 30 games are a lot lower than you generally would think. A lot of LSU hitters interconference play hitting 420 and crushing the midweek, and then they hit somewhere around 260, 270 in league play, and that averages out to a 315 average. Like, that's a very common thing. You go back and look at the 2023 team, I think only 2 guys, White and Cruz, hit 300 in league play. Cruz hit like 430 in league play. He's a freak. But most guys hit 270 or so in SEC play. So hitting 265 as a true freshman in league play is a really solid year, but you like to build on that. And now if you hit 285, 290 in league play, you're going to have a big-time batting average. I'm not asking Stephen Milam to do that. You only got 3 weeks left, but he's got to do better than 195. And I think everyone listening here, and myself certainly included, consider Stephen Milam a better hitter than what he's done this year. And he's got to go. This offense is not going to be carried by the long ball. It's not going to be carried by superstar power. It needs to be carried by the fact that it's deep and that every inning you've got to battle if you're a pitcher. And Milam's got to be a big piece to that in the 5, 6, 7 hole. And right now he's not. So he's got to get going. And I know that a couple of hits against Southeastern's not going to go haywire. They're trying to win the league and create conference tournament seeding for them. They're not going to go nuts tonight trying to throw all their best arms. Clearly, no one ever does in the midweek. But so I'm not saying that hitting the back end of Southeastern's bullpen is going to solve all your problems this week when you got to go to College Station. But it's still nice to get some confidence going. And so I'd like to see Stephen Milam do a little bit of that. As far as LSU goes on the mound, it's the same story every Tuesday. I'm singling out a couple of guys here. One is Maverick Rizzi and one is Connor Ware. It's kind of hard for me right now to envision LSU getting through a regional and getting through the grind of Omaha without those guys stepping up a little bit. And this is a tired narrative, I think, for analyzing this team over the course of 56 games, but you can probably get through a regional with just Cade Anderson, Anthony Ianson, Kason Evans, and Zach Cowan and the bats. Like, you might not, but you probably can. Another team's going to run out of pitching. You'll bash them all over the place on Sunday, whatever. Like, that can happen. In Omaha, like, you got to have some guys go out there and pitch. And it's not like these guys have been awful all year and they just have no chance. And that's what makes this worth talking about, is because, like, they have shown some flashes. Now, Connor Ware didn't pitch last week. He hasn't pitched since the Alabama series. But he's only given up 1 earned run in his last 7 2/3 innings. That's over 5 appearances. He's been okay. He just hasn't been nearly as good as my hand is way up, as I prognosticated in January, as really everyone who watched the team scrimmage, the coaching staff included, saw him early on. It just hasn't been quite that. So I'm hopeful that there's more in there. I'd love to see him for 3 to 6 outs tonight. I don't need him to go 80 pitches, but at some point, I don't care if it's in the 8th inning or the 1st inning. I don't care. I just want to see some of it. I want to see Connor Ware throw the ball well. And Maverick Rizzi is the other one. Last midweek, he faced 12 hitters. He walked 3 of them. Saturday, he faced 4 hitters. He walked 2 of them. That's 5 walks and 16 batters faced. It's just not going to do it. It's just not good. the equivalent of 5 walks in a 3-inning start. Like, it's just not good enough. So those two guys have shown flashes, and they have plenty of stuff. Rizzy throws 98 with enough of a slider. Ware's got 3 pitches. I'm clinging to a few things with Ware. One is the Dallas Baptist start really was good. And then the fact that his last 5 outings have been pretty productive, if not dominant. So those are two guys I'm looking at. Yeah, I want to see Connor Benj get back out on the mound after a bumpy outing last week. I want to see William Schmidt go, and you're going to see all that. It's the same guys we see every midweek. And eventually, you got to stop talking about what you did against Southeastern and Northwestern and ULL and Tech, and you got to worry about what happens on the weekend. And like, they went to William Schmidt on the weekend, and he came in against the 9-hole hitter and 2 outs. And it's a high leverage spot, but it's a spot that you got to make one pitch. I'm not asking for 4 innings. I'm asking for 1 pitch. And he walked the guy. So, like, eventually you got to do it then, and you're running out of time for eventually. But right now, you still got some of these games to go out there and work on some stuff, and we'll see if you can see that tonight. LSU all-time is 50-4. Well, not all-time. Is 50-4 against Southeastern since 1990. This is a Southeastern team that's pitched it really well. Doesn't hit for a lot of power, but does have a quality offense for the Southland Conference, and is very clearly a team you could see back here in June. So I expect LSU to play well tonight. I don't think there's some sort of hangover spot between playing against Tennessee in a very emotional series. We know that. And then going to College Station, which is going to be a supercharged series as well. The reason I say that it's not going to be a hangover spot is because you just have to go back 7 days. You go back 7 days, you watch a team that doesn't come out to play, well, you can be in trouble. So I think they've got woken up last weekend, and I expect to see them play pretty well. I didn't mention Chase Shores in this. That's a guy that you'd certainly like to see figure some things out. Last piece on this game, I would like to see Chase Shores pitch in this game in the 8th inning of a 9-1 game. I would like the lowest leverage spot for him possible, so he can go out there without his heartbeat racing, without feeling like the weight of the world's on his shoulders, without feeling like he had to shoulder a huge load, and just throw some 98-mile-an-hour fastballs over the plate. Just throw them over the plate. That ball's got plenty of run, plenty of sink. Like, just throw it over the plate. And so he may start tonight. Ware may start tonight. Schmidt may start tonight. Newton may start tonight. I don't know what the plan is, but for one guy specifically, Chase Shores, I'd love to see him in a very low leverage spot in the back end of a blowout game. If LSU can go out there and hang a 4 spot early, hang a 3 spot in another inning, and create some separation, that's where I'd like to see Chase Shores jump in, because that's another guy. There's potential there, but he hadn't shown much this year, so we'll see. That's LSU and Southeastern tonight. That is our Genesis opening drive. We will take a timeout. When we come back, Sharief, Ishaq on the Saints Drives. Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is that website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Look, sometimes folks have lived in a house for a good while. It's an older home, and we're not even talking about trying to upgrade in terms of the aesthetics. Like, you've got a toilet / shower / bathtub that just isn't functional anymore. It's probably not the spot to go down the street and get the handyman who you just hand some cash to on the side to handle that sort of situation. Go ahead and get a master plumber. Get a company that's licensed, bonded, insured. Get a company that's been doing this for 3 decades. One Bath and Closets has been doing that. So if you're in a situation where you're looking at that tub and you're looking at that bathroom and you're going, this is not only not looking great, like, this doesn't work anymore. David Vaughn and his team are happy to help you with that. If you're thinking, I don't know if this is a time for me to pay for that. Well, they've got financing options available, 0% up to 18 months, the same as cash if you qualify. Go to the website, onebathandclosets.com, and get that free consultation today. It doesn't cost you anything to sit down and have a conversation with David and see what he can do for you. It's David Vaughn, One Bath and Closets. You can find him online at onebathandclosets.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
here on a Tuesday. Hope your work week is off to a good start. Hope to join us tonight at Sports Trivia. Pizza by Roan's on Perkins, 8 o'clock. We will be there. Took last week off for vacation, but back in action tonight at Pizza by Roan's. Win some gift cards, drink some cold beer, eat some pizza. They got great wings over at Pizza by Roan's as well. We'll be there at 8 o'clock on Perkins Road. Sharief, Ishaq down in New Orleans. Joining us a little bit early this week, but making some time for us on this Tuesday. We certainly do appreciate it. Sharief, how are you?
I enjoyed watching mini Tony V beat the real Tony V on Sunday. My guy, Casey Evans. Legend.
And that Cobble asked Jay Johnson about that, about him looking like Tony Vitello, and Jay was like, "Oh, I never even thought of it." Like, the coaches just have no time for like humorous questions in press conferences when they're in the middle of the throes of competition. But yeah, the beard and it all worked out. Casey Evans was awesome on Sunday, and I was happy to see Tennessee heading back to Rocky Top with a couple of losses. Let's talk about the Saints weekend, though. Let's start at the top. They decided to go on the offensive line with their first-round picks. Your thought on that?
Tradition unlike any other.
Yeah.
I felt like that was, as long as Jeff Ireland and Mickey Lewis are there, be prepared for an offensive lineman or defensive lineman to be drafted. I mean, they've drafted one or the other in the first or second round since 2015. So just forget about it. Don't even second guess what they're going to do in the draft. That's why when I made my prediction in a newspaper, they asked me for mine. I fell off of Shador Sanders and went straight to Calvin Banks. He's good. I mean, he's played left tackle his entire career at Texas, hasn't missed a game, very durable, very versatile. And he's a good guy. I mean, they do really draft a lot of good, high-character guys who are versatile, and that's what they did this year for sure. I like that pick a lot because I feel like he's moving to the left, Fuaga's going to move to the right, and then you ask yourself what's going to happen with Trevor Penning. I know that's a conversation down the road, but to answer your question, yes, I love that move. I love Calvin Banks. He's a surefire starter of these draft picks for sure, of all the 9 picks they had.
It's very interesting to hear you say that you think that Banks will play on the left and Fuaga goes to the right. That's certainly where they played in college, and it certainly makes sense. I just haven't seen that everywhere. So how confident are you in that statement?
I feel pretty confident about it because he hasn't played. I mean, you can say that Fuaga never really played on the side he played on last year for a while, but Calvin hasn't played on the right side since the sophomore year of high school. So at the end of the sophomore year of high school. So it makes me think that like you probably just kick him to the left side and do that with him and put him on the left side and just have Fuaga move to the right side. I just don't see Calvin Banks playing guard. I don't know how that would work. I feel like he's a great left tackle. You leave him at left tackle and just move Fuaga to right tackle. Maybe they move Trevor Penning in at guard and they have things settled there, and then you have your entire offensive line. And you should feel solid about it if Penning can hold his own at guard. But that's just the way it feels to me that Kelvin's going left and then Fuaga goes right and Penning probably kicks inside.
Tyler Shough, is he the quarterback of the future or is he the quarterback of the present for the Saints?
I think he's at least a quarterback for this year and next year. I do like the fact that he's already buying into the city with his Instagram post of "I'll die for y'all on the field." If the offensive line doesn't block for him well enough, maybe he's going to be buying on the field. But yeah, I like that he bought into the city and the franchise. He's just listening to him talk in the Zoom after getting drafted Friday. He's mature, and he should be. He's going to be 26 in September. He's been there. He's done that. 3 schools, 7 years. It's unfortunate he's been he's dealt with some serious injuries, not serious, at least bone breaks, better than tendon issues. But, this collarbone twice, the shoulder, the broken leg, and he finally had the healthy year this year. Look, Hon, he has he certainly has the arm talent at 6'5", 220, 225. He's got the arm talent. He can fling the ball. The one thing with him is the pocket presence if the blitz is coming at his face up the middle. You've heard about him being kind of a little timid whenever the blitz is coming at him. He kind of doesn't know what to do, kind of loses sight of things down the field, maybe with time. Look, this is what Kellen Moore wanted. Mickey got Dennis and Sean their quarterbacks, and he got Kellen his quarterback. So they have to live with it for now. I think the potential is the key word, is there with the guy with his arm talent and his size. It's just fixing some of the other things, and it's with being in the pocket. He can move a little bit around the pocket. It's just, man, there are going to be times where you have to stand still in that pocket and deliver and not be scared and flinch. That's what he has to get rid of to be successful in the NFL. But, yeah, I think it's at least this year and maybe next year. And if it doesn't work out, guess what? If you're bad, you're drafting a quarterback in the first round and 27. And I think everyone knows who's coming out in 2027.
Well, was this the right time in that round to take the quarterback that you wanted?
You just never know what's going to happen. Let's just say if at 40 they would have gone, I don't know. Let's just say if they would have gone the highest available cornerback. And then somebody would have jumped up like Cleveland. I don't know what Cleveland's even doing. They got 5 quarterbacks in their roster and drafted 2. Pittsburgh. Let's just say Pittsburgh jumps up and they take Tyler Shuck, and you're like, man, who are we going to draft? And they could have probably still drafted Shador if he was going to stick around at 71. Or someone, I just think that the board had gotten really downhill after that. But, yeah, I mean, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. If Kellen Moore wanted him at 40, that's great. I would have not done a quarterback at 40, but I also don't run a billion-dollar franchise. I personally would have addressed some, edge rusher, receiver, cornerback, because those are some of the positions they really need now. And it just doesn't feel like they're in the win mode now unless Kellen flips the switch and Shuck and some of these draft picks all hit. I said last week to Taylor that they at least need to hit on 4 or 5 this year and 4 or 5 next year. If they hit on those this year and they somehow miraculously have a big season and prove everyone wrong, they sneak into the playoffs, then that's going to be the job of the century done by Kellen Moore and his staff. But I just don't think I would have done it at 40. I would have probably traded back and maybe have done it and gotten some more picks and try to get more players on my team.
Well, we know that wasn't going to happen, so that's just an impossibility with that franchise. I'm just thrilled they stood there and took all 9 picks. Speaking of that, was there a pick after Shook that you particularly liked, particularly didn't like? That's the part where you try to build the foundation of your team with starters later in the draft. Do you think the Saints potentially accomplished that?
Hunt, I feel like I liked a lot of what they did in day 3. In the last few years, they've done well late in with their late draft picks. I do like Quincy Riley, the cornerback from Louisville, and I really, really like Devin Neal. I mean, you don't become a school's all-time leading rusher and do it from different areas on the field. I like what Devin Neal did, 1,000+ yards each season, so I like him a lot. I think that, I'm not saying he's going to be great, but I'm saying that he can contribute right away. I mean, you don't know what Kendre Miller is going to do. Don't know how he's going to be. Is he going to be available? Devin has been available pretty much his entire career at Kansas, and I just like his size. I like his speed. I like his experience. For the most part, they drafted a class with experience and good, high character players. But I really like Devin Neal, man. I just watching some of the low angle highlights that our station shoot. I'm like, man, he can catch. He can take the snap from shotgun. I mean, he's got speed on the outside. He can run between tackles. I mean, you can't ask for more than that. In the 6th round, you got a 6th-round steal. So if they make something out of that, and then Jonas Sanker is another little sleeper, man. He's like a heat-seeking missile as a safety, and he can play a little bit of special teams. I also like that pick up to their 2nd, 3rd round pick. So, there are 3 picks that, after the Tyler Shuck pick that I really like, and those are the 3 guys. I mean, versatile is what it comes down to with all these draft picks.
Yeah, my question for Devin Neal in the interview: can you go through one training camp rep without getting hurt and being out for a month and a half? And if he said yes, all right, well, you're the 2nd team running back. Welcome to New Orleans.
I mean, that might be it. That might be it, Hunt. I mean, no joking. It really might be that easy for him to step in and be like, all right, you're 2nd behind Alvin Kamara. I mean, he's just raving about how he can't wait to play alongside Alvin Kamara, and I'm like thinking to myself, you might be taking the 2nd most reps behind Alvin. So, yeah, I mean, but if you have all 3 healthy, just watch out. I'm just saying, man, I like that backfield a lot. I mean, that was a sneaky good pick for him to be there in the 6th round. I know people don't really value running backs that much, but if he's a steal in the 6th round for me.
I know y'all asked Mickey and Kellen Moore about wide receiver. They did not address that in this draft. My take yesterday was you took a tight end, and there's some potential there with Mataval, but I probably would have gone wide receiver there instead based on the Juwan Johnson contract. What are your thoughts on what they can possibly do at wide receiver?
Well, I mean, see what's out there. I know Keenan Allen's name is floating around, but he's in the twilight part of his career. Is he going to want to come down and, he had one of his better seasons with Kellen Moore when Kellen was with the Chargers for that one season. But that's also when Justin Herbert was the quarterback. Is he going to want to come to New Orleans when he has Tyler Shuck vying for the job alongside of Spencer Rattler? I mean, is he going to want to finish his career like that, or is he going to go find a contender? But that's a ways away to me. I think they're probably going to have to wait until around training camp to address that need, just to see what's out there and who's out there. I mean, he's the only name I just keep hearing. There might be a few other names, but like they need a possession receiver in a bad way, and he could play it out the slot really well. He's a good slot receiver. He can get you those big contested catches, and that's the only thing this team is missing in terms of its receivers core. They got to find a guy who can go across the middle and have some size, and his name is the one that's coming up. And I guess we wouldn't find out until July if that's going to happen. So, I mean, he would be the one I would go for, but is he going to want to do it in this part of his career?
Just all depends. We shall see. Sharief Ishaq, WDSU, with us every single Tuesday. I know you got somewhere to be. We appreciate some time. We'll do it next week.
Anytime for you, Hunt.
That's Sharief Ishaq from down in New Orleans. I'm going to give you my thoughts on Tyler Shook coming up in second hour. When we come back, we'll talk some Tigers with Glen West. That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show. This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Let's transition back to some baseball. Glen West covers the Tigers for Go 24/7. Was up at the box this weekend. Does a great job covering football, basketball, baseball. He got great recruiting coverage over there as well. He joins us on Tuesdays, does so now on the Jim's Farm sideline. Glenn, how are you?
Doing well, Hunt. Were you up till 3 in the morning on early Saturday?
I was up that late. I did not go to the game. We were coming back from the beach. The 2-hour delay got announced. My wife's still dealing with unpacking and 2 babies, and I was like, I got to go back home. So I went back home and watched it there and wrote it. But yes, I was awake, and that was quite a scene at the box. For those that weren't there, one of them, it looked on TV like those that were there were quite boisterous. Was that the case?
I would definitely say yes. There was a little bit more liquid courage in the fan base after the 3.5-hour delay. And actually a good bit of them stayed. Like, I was surprised by the end of the game how many people were still there, just because, I mean, these fans are as dedicated as anyone when it comes to baseball. But, you know, staying until 1:45, 2 o'clock in the morning to watch a game is pretty hardcore dedication. So it was a great atmosphere.
How big was Sunday's win, and what was the most important part of it?
Yeah, it was tremendously huge. I mean, like, I don't know that there'll be a more important regular season game that this team plays, and I think that they handled that about as well as you could potentially expect or hope for. And I thought that they did a lot of really good things. Obviously, offensively, what we saw with Derek Curiel was extremely impressive, and just kind of the game here in a couple of years where if we look back on his career, it's like, you remember that Derek Curiel game against Tennessee his first year? Yeah, that was kind of the start of this thing for him. So really liked what he was able to do and kind of carrying the offense. And really, I think the most important thing, though, was just Jay finally pulling that lever there with Kason Evans and putting him in the starting rotation just to see what it looked like. And boy, he'd respond in a huge, huge way. You know, you give up the 2 runs there in the first inning, but you throw 5 shutouts the rest of the way. You retire 15 of the 17 batters the rest of the way after that first inning. So I think now that they've seen that they know that he can do that, I think that just opens up a world of possibilities for this pitching staff going forward. I don't think you'll see him pitch every Sunday game going forward. I think they want to keep those options open. But I think that was a really important lesson that this team was able to kind of learn out of that Sunday win, was knowing that they have a guy like Kason Evans who can fill a number of different roles for you if called upon.
One of the other starts in that week, Anthony Ianson. Your confidence level in him right now as a starter in the SEC and as they get closer to postseason?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident in him, just on the sole fact that, man, every time it looks like he's about to go down and out, he finds a way to get out of a big-time jam. And I think that's really important for a pitcher to have that quality to him. And it hasn't always been that smooth sailing. Early on in the season, he definitely was giving up some big innings and some big runs in those innings. But really, for the most part of conference play, I mean, he just seems like he's been able to really find another gear when offenses are threatening to really put up a ton of runs on him. And he's able to get a big punch out, a big ground out or pop fly out. He's been really consistent for him over the last really month to 6 weeks. I've been really impressed by what he's been able to do. Only gave up two earned runs in the game on Saturday, and obviously we know what happened after that and kind of the bullpen that let it get away from him a little bit there. But I've been really impressed with Anthony. I think he's going to be a huge part of this team's success and what they're able to accomplish in postseason play.
Another thing offensively for this team, I mentioned it in my open. I wrote about it a little bit today. Steven Milam's hitting 195 in league play. Do you feel like it's some sort of sophomore slump, or do you feel like there's a breakout afoot?
Yeah, you need to get him going because, I think the strange thing for me in watching his at-bats is it doesn't look like he's taking terrible at-bats. I believe he's among the lowest strikeout guys on the roster. And so he's just putting the ball in bad spots or getting under it and putting it in the air too much or too often. But I think he was, one of your best hitters, if not your best hitter in conference play last year. He's done it before. I would lean towards a breakout coming instead of this being more of the same with him. But, it's certainly been a little bit of a perplexing year for him because, he's obviously got immense talent, but we just haven't seen it translate in the numbers yet. But I do think it's on the way.
Glen Wesco, 24/7, our guest, joins us every Tuesday. They teach you in broadcast school to be quick with your questions, let the guest talk. This one's going to take a second, so let me set the stage here. But I just think it's an interesting dichotomy where LSU has beaten Liam Doyle. They've beaten Kyson Witherspoon. They've beaten Jared Spencer. They beat Pico Khan. They've won games. But if you look at their production against some of those arms, it's not very good. Now, I realize that you usually don't hit aces all that well. That's why they're aces. But when you put all that together in your brain, you consider what you've got to do to win championships in the postseason. Like, how do you feel like LSU is handling the really good arms? Marcus Phillips on Saturday comes to mind as well.
Yeah, I think for me, I go back to an answer that Jay actually gave this last weekend after the Liam Doyle start, where LSU didn't really hit him or see him all that well. But what they were able to do is kind of extend his outing. Like they were able to, get his pitch count up and take good disciplined at bats. And so I think that's been kind of a trend for this team whenever they're facing elite arms is, yes, they might not have all the great success in the first, 5 or 6 innings where they're posting 3, 4, 5 runs. But they are doing a good job for the most part of staying disciplined in their approach and extending bats or at bats and, forcing the elite pitchers to make a good pitch to get them out kind of deal. So I think that's probably been the positive, if you want to spin it that way, and against some of these elite arms. Is that something you can bank on in postseason play? I don't know. I think you have to have some kind of success against some of those elite arms and being able to get them out earlier in games. But I think the fact that they've kind of maintain their disciplined approach for the most part against some of those elite arms and kind of getting them out in that 5th, 6th inning. I don't believe any of those guys have gone super deep into the games, which is, obviously a good thing to kind of, open up the bullpen and see if you can have some success in the end of games there. So that would be kind of the positive spin I'd have on it. But I think at the same time, you also would like to see them get a few more runs on some of those elite arms.
Lastly, tonight, Southeastern comes in. We have the same conversation every Tuesday. Who you want to see out of the bullpen tonight? Who's making a step forward? And we have that conversation every week. At this point, do you feel like you can gain anything from a game against a Southland team in the midweek, or do you need to see it on the weekend?
Yeah, you need to see it on the weekends at this point. I mean, these guys have shown that they can go out there and throw strikes for the most part. Obviously, last week, bar last week, but they've done a pretty good job with handling the midweek opponents to this point. And I think for me, it's just about getting some of these guys those extra reps. I've been saying, William Schmidt in the midweeks is kind of the thing that you'd like to see, and just kind of him still pitching through some of the struggles and gaining some confidence in some of those midweek games. Clearly, he's not somebody that I think is quite ready to pitch in the SEC, given on what has now been a 7 or 8 week sample size. They need him to get going in some way. But for me, I think tonight in particular, would love to see Connor Ware get an inning or two. Hadn't pitched for a little while now. Didn't pitch this last weekend, and so if they're able to get him going for three outs or 4 outs, whatever it is that they want to get him, he's got to be, I think, that guy after Evans and after Zach Cowan out of the bullpen that you're going to have to really rely on for some big outs come postseason play, and certainly down the stretch here of SEC play. So getting him some more work and just kind of tuned up for the weekend, I think will be a benefit for LSU.
How many do they win in College Station?
I would like to say 2. The way that A&M has been playing, I know that they just got swept by Texas, but all 3 of those games came down to the last pitch against the number 1 team in the country. They've been red hot. They're going to obviously be playing with their backs against the wall. I wouldn't be surprised if A&M wins this series, but I think if LSU goes in there and is able to get 1, you leave and you're content with that. So I think that would probably be my prediction right now. And then you get a chance to make up for it, obviously, with Arkansas and coming to the box and getting you one final big time SEC series win in the box in a couple weeks.
We will see you next time, Glenn. We appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Hunt.
He's Glen West, senior writer over there at Go 24/7. Your team coverage, recruiting coverage. They got you covered over there at Go 24/7. We're chugging along here on a Tuesday. Appreciate you hanging out with us. LSU now had a pretty big time commitment. I'm not surprised. I'll tell you why next.
The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
All right, closing up hour number 1 here on this Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Got a lot to do in hour number 2. We'll start things off with my thoughts on the Saints drafting Tyler Shough. We'll get to that in about 12 minutes. LSU got a commitment for the class of 2026 yesterday. Haven Finney, 4-star cornerback out of Los Angeles, California. On3 ranks him as the number 2 cornerback in the country. He's 6'2". He's 170 pounds. Had offers from Southern Cal, Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan. But big time player. Depending on the service you look at, he's a top 50 player here. Number 2 corner in the state of California here. He's a big time prospect, no matter how you want to slice it. And I'm not here today to break down the potential in the game and the technical skills of Haven Finney. That's something that we'll learn down the road potentially. We all know that in recruiting, it's not over until it's over, and then it is over, and they come and they transfer out, and you never know. But the point being, he's a really good player at defensive back. He's from California, and he's committed to LSU. And I'm not surprised by that. And I'll tell you why I'm not surprised by that. Because there are very, very few guarantees when you hire coaches. It's usually a crapshoot. But sometimes there are guarantees. And the very second Corey Raymond walked back into that football facility last year, it was a guarantee that LSU was going to get into all of these living rooms. All of them. Because it's what he does. In the NIL world, it's not a guarantee you're going to get them. It wasn't a guarantee you were going to get them in the pre-NIL world. But you've got a guarantee now with that logo on the helmet and that assistant coach coaching that position, you are going to get into these living rooms like he's done for a decade and a half. Sometimes you don't get Pat Surtain, but you were in the final 2. But there were a lot of times you did. And some of them were in-state. Derek Stingley and Christian Fulton and Dante Jackson and Greedy Williams or Davius White. And all that's great. But a lot of times, it was out of state. With Eli Ricks and Jamal Adams and Jacoby Stevens and Rashard Robinson and Kevin Tolliver, Eric Monroe. Now, those guys had varying levels of success. But if you want to go back and look at where they were ranked when they were coming out of high school, these were the elite of the elite in the defensive backfield. Now, Corey did defensive backfield for 4 years. He did just corners for a few after that. But the fact of the matter is that for a run there of 10 years, if there was an elite level defensive back, whether it was in Baton Rouge or Shreveport like Stingley and White, or it was nationwide like Jacoby Stevens or Eli Ricks or Kevin Tolliver, who was the top cornerback in the country, Corey Raymond was getting in that living room. And more often than not, they were coming to LSU. And I'll tell you what else is beyond debate. When he left, that stopped. And now he's back, and it's going to continue. Because he's got that kind of reputation, and LSU's that kind of brand, and DBU is that real. Now, I say all of that understanding that in the NIL world, Haven Finney may never play a snap for LSU. But I walked out there on campus this spring, and DJ Pickett was running around out there. He's here. And Corey Raymond is the reason for that. So this is just one piece to the puzzle here, but it was one that for a couple of years was very much missing. And I'm not here to point fingers and say that he said, she said. I'm just here to tell you that when Corey Raymond was hired back to LSU, it was a huge positive for the program. In the same way that when Corey Raymond left LSU and wasn't brought back, it was a big mistake. But it's been corrected. And now you're going to continue to see this while he's coaching defensive backs, because he's an awesome recruiter. He's an awesome relationship builder. He's an excellent developer of talent. And there are guys that are cashing monstrous checks all over the place on Sundays that played for him in Baton Rouge. So Haven Finney may be the next All-American, Thorpe Award winner, first-round pick, because heaven knows we've had a lot of those in the last 15 years. He may never play a snap for LSU. I don't really care about that today. But what I'm telling you is you look at the class LSU just signed with Aiden Anding and DJ Pickett. I mean, it was solid on the defensive backfield. You look at the commitments in this class, go down and get Hall from Carr, and then go out west and grab Haven Finney. Like, you look at the defensive backs that LSU is putting together, specifically at cornerback, this is the way it's going to be. And in this era of football, where everybody's spreading it out and quarterbacks are throwing for 1 billion yards, you got to be able to run and cover. And my contention the last 2 years is that LSU was simply not nearly good enough in coverage. And most of that is talent. You can teach technique, you can drill it, but you got to go get guys that one, are big enough, physical enough, and have the skills and quickness to run with guys, and then the ball skills to make plays on it, and then you work with that. And Haven Finney is right out of the Corey Raymond playbook at 6'2". Some have been listed at 6'3" and 170 pounds. You put him across from DJ Pickett, which of course would only happen for potentially 2 years, one after he's a freshman. That's way down the road and probably foolish to even talk about. But these are the type of lengthy, rangy athletes that Corey Raymond seeks out and ultimately lands. Big time commitment for LSU. We'll see if it pays off in the early signing period coming up in December. But it's just something that's going to continue to happen as long as he's coaching the corners here in Baton Rouge. I'm thrilled he's back. I think you probably should be too. And Haven Finney, a little bit more proof that LSU's got the right guy back there coaching the cornerbacks. If you're looking for LSU football content, we got it year-round. It's at Hunt on LSU, wherever you find your podcast, certainly wherever on YouTube as well. Just search Hunt on LSU. You can like, subscribe, rate, review. All that helps us get our content in front of as many people as possible, so we appreciate y'all doing that each and every day. Busy hour number one here on this Tuesday. We talked LSU-Southeastern a little bit at the top of the show, what Jared Jones could potentially accomplish tonight. Sharief Ishaq talking Saints draft at 1:15. Glen West talking baseball at 1:30. Then a little LSU football as well, kind of hit everything on the board. If you missed any, want to catch it on demand, you certainly can do that anywhere you find your sound. Just search Hunt Palmer Show, and it should be there for you. In the second hour, got to talk about where the LSU players went in the NFL draft. I've certainly got some LSU baseball resume to talk, because you got 3 weekends left in conference play, and we'll come back. Should the Saints have taken a quarterback with their second pick in this draft? I've got my thoughts on that. We'll do it after Sports Center. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Come back with us for hour number 2 of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. When I say Genesis of Baton Rouge, you should automatically think luxury vehicles. And when I say luxury vehicle, don't immediately go, well, I certainly can't pay for that. You don't know until you go look. Genesis model is a luxury brand of vehicle, a luxury experience at a reasonable price. That is what Genesis promises to you. The odds are, if you're listening to me right now, you've never been behind the wheel of a Genesis. The odds are you've never been over to Genesis of Baton Rouge. Hasn't been here that long. Only been at Airline and PQ just over 2 years. Go stop by the dealership. Get behind the wheel. Have a conversation with one of their brand ambassadors. You will feel like a guest, not a customer. You will not be upsold. You will not be pressured. You'll just have a wonderful experience. And if you get behind the wheel of a Genesis, you will feel that difference. Every car that is on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. They're at Airline and PQ. You can find them online at genesisofbatonrouge.com.